What's up, guys? Today on All Sports Central, we're going to be going over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We're going to be going over a little bit of a history on this program and whether this team can get back to where they once were or not. This was a team that absolutely steamrolled through the 90s, the 80s, 70s. Those decades were just all Nebraskas. A good analogy for that would say Alabama of this decade was just like Nebraska was back in the 90s. And Nebraska over the past couple of decades really has not been as good as they have been. But once again, today we're going to be going over whether this team can get back to where they once were, and whether they can be a blue blood once again in college football. This was a team, once again, absolutely ruled through the 60s and the 90s. They would win 22 conference championships in those decades alone. I mean, just thinking about that is crazy. I mean, over about 40 years, they won over half of those 40 years conference championships. That is crazy. They just rolled through the Big 8 and the Big 12. And then they'd also win 5 national championships along with that. They win 1970, 71, 94, 95, and 97. So that is 3 national championships in 4 years. That is insanity for a team to do. I mean, we've seen Alabama do it and Clemson looking like they can do it as well. But for Nebraska, though, that was insane at that point in time. When Coach Tom Osborne retired in the late 90s, this team would do a slow fade from there. And they've been kind of down over the past couple of decades compared to where they once were. Since 1999, Nebraska hasn't won any conference championships. They've appeared in conference championships, but they have not been able to win any. They were in the Big 12 ones about a decade ago, and then they were in the Big 10 championship in 2012, which ended up turning into a disaster. They had a huge opportunity there. I believe it was against Wisconsin, and they didn't really turn out too well there. But looking at the records over the past 15 years are about, from 2000 to 2015. We saw them do pretty well at the beginning of the 2000s. They were 10-2 and 11-2. Overall, those are pretty good years. But then you went 7-7 in 2002. And that's when really things kind of started to take a little bit of a turn. 2003, you went 10 wins again, so that's, once again, pretty decent. Not great compared to where Nebraska used to be, but at the time, 10 wins is still a great record to have. And they had 5 wins in 2004. That's really where things kind of, I'm sure, started to get a little bit concerning for this team. They had 8 and 9 wins in 2005, 2006. 2007, they'd get another 5-win season. And really, I mean, this team, once again, as you look at these records, especially from 2000 to 2007, they just kind of do a little bit of a slow fade. But then Bo Pelini came in 2008, and he was there until 2014. Those games are marked by the asterisks. But Bo Pelini would do a great job. There's a little bit of controversy around him. That's the reason why he would get fired. But he had 9 and 10 win seasons every single year, all the way until 2014. When we'd see 9, 10, 10, 9, 10. Overall, I mean, those are excellent records for, almost any school to have consistent season game wins like that. But really, I mean, in the end, it just was not enough from this team. You can't have 4 wins every single season and expect to get anywhere. They fired him after 2014. In 2015, Mike Riley would come in, and it wouldn't turn out too great for this team. He was with this team for 3 years, and he tried to make this team better through 2015 and 2017, but in the end, he would probably end up leaving this team worse. They'd go 6-7 in 2015. He'd still make a bowl game, but it's really not a really great season otherwise. 2016, he'd lead this team to 9 wins once again, which, I mean, 9 wins is good, but for Nebraska, you got to go a little bit further than that. 2017, they had 4-8. They'd go only 4 wins, and that is a rarity that you've seen from this program. It has been, I believe, it was multiple decades, like since the 1950s, that Nebraska's gotten only 4 wins in a season. So that was a crazy year there, not for a good reason. Then in 2018, they go another 4-8. But the thing is about 2018 is that they got Scott Frost, and they got him from UCF, and he is entering his 2nd season with Nebraska. And I really think he's a great coach. I mean, he's really going to lead this program, I think, to some great seasons. And I mean, considering he led UCF, they were winless in 2015. They were 0-12, and they go 2 undefeated in 2017, and then they also had a huge bowl win in there. He led this team in 2 years from being winless to undefeated, and that is extremely rare to see something like that happen. And so Scott Frost seems like a great coach. He is a great coach, and he's also very young. And so I think he's going to lead Nebraska some great seasons. I mean, we saw him last season. We'll go over that in a couple minutes. But, I mean, he led this team from a really tough start to the season to a great finish to the season. We'll be going over that in a couple minutes once again. How long will it be till Nebraska is back to being national contenders? Will this team get back to being national contenders? I think it is safe to say that this team can easily go back to national championships. They could make the college football playoff. This team is going to be very capable of that, I think, within 5 or 6 years. Really, I mean, it's a tough say. Once again, rebuilding a program, especially a Power 5 one, it is tough, and it's not easy with recruiting and stuff. You have to give it a couple of years, and that's kind of what we saw last season. I mean, it's tough to turn it around very quickly. I mean, last year was kind of a good example without going 4-8. But I think within 3 or 4 years, you could see this team making some big bowl games, and possibly they could make the college football playoff eventually, make their first appearance in that. I honestly think that is very possible within a few years. They started off, here's what I was talking about. They started off last season 0-6, and then they went 4-2 through the toughest part of the season to finish off the year. I mean, 4-8 does not look good, but really in this circumstance, 4-8 looks a whole lot better than 2018 4-8, that is for sure. Here's what their 2018 season looked like. Once again, you'd have blowout losses. You lose to Troy. You lost to Colorado. Blown out by Michigan. That was a terrible game. Purdue, then you'd lose to as well. I mean, you should be able to beat that team at home, right? And then Wisconsin on the road. That was another tough one. Then you kind of see a little bit of a reverse, though, in here. Like Wisconsin, that was a closer game when Wisconsin was really a team that was dangerous. And then Northwestern, of course, they went to the Big Ten Championship last year, and you were able to hang on with them, and you almost were able to beat them in that game. Then you come in the next week and you beat Minnesota by a good amount of points. You beat them by over 20. And then that's kind of when the tide started to turn on this season. I mean, then you'd see you'd win against BCU 45-9. Then the next week, that'd be an awesome game as well. And then you'd have Ohio State. This was a really interesting game here because, I mean, that is a close score, 36-31 against a team that is a national contender on the road. That's a really good score to see out of this team compared to like the first parts of the season when you get blown out by Michigan 56-10. Then you have Illinois and Michigan State. Illinois would be an easier win. Then Michigan State, probably their signature win of the year. You'd win that game in a low-scoring one, very low-scoring one, 9-6. But the thing is about that one right there is that Michigan State at the time was an excellent team. Well, actually, they were okay. I think they had 7 or 8 wins coming into that game. But still, though, for Nebraska to win that one like they did, that was an excellent game. And you go into Iowa hoping for a 5th win to finish off the year, and you didn't get that one. But once again, it was close, and that is much better than a blowout like you had at the beginning of the season. And also, losing to Troy at the beginning of the season too. That's another reason to note there. Really, this season for Nebraska, you can totally see the improvement over the year. And I think next year Nebraska is going to be a team to watch for, especially in the Big Ten West. Why is Nebraska so hyped up this season after going 4-8 in 2018? That is what many fans are asking, including myself. I'm completely neutral on this team. I'm not a fan of Nebraska, and I kind of wondered, at the start of the offseason, everyone was hyping up Nebraska so much, and I kind of disagreed with it at first. But really, after going 4-8 in 2018, typically you don't see a team possibly get up to 8 to 9 wins. But really, this team has so much talent. They were returning a ton of talent. Their defense, I went over that in my season predictions video for Nebraska. But their defense needs to improve this season. If their defense can improve, then this team is a very dangerous one, I believe, in the Big Ten for sure. I mean, their offense is still really talented. Their quarterback is excellent. He put up some crazy stats last year. Running back position's a little iffy. Wide receivers, though, they got some great receivers in there. And so I think really this offense is going to be great. It just depends on the defense. How high can Nebraska get in 2019? Really, I mean, this team has, I think the sky's the limit right now, especially in the Big Ten from Nebraska. I mean, looking at their division, you got Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Purdue. Illinois, Northwestern. All those games, you play all those during the season. All of those are winnable for sure. You got Wisconsin. That's going to be a home one, I believe. Iowa, I think, is at home. Minnesota, Purdue. All these games, once again, are very winnable. And they kind of get the home field advantages as well this season. So that's really going to help them very much. And so I think Nebraska really could contend in the Big Ten West. Your biggest competitors will be Iowa. You can argue Wisconsin could be up there, Northwestern. Really, it's a battle between, I think, those 4 teams. Purdue, people are saying they could contend, but really, they're losing too much talent. Wisconsin, Minnesota. Minnesota's going to be interesting, too. You could probably add them to this list as well. So it's going to be pretty competitive. You got to win those Big Ten West games if you're going to make it to the championship next year. But I think Nebraska is highly capable of doing it, and I think this is going to be a team that you're going to really need to get through in order to make it to the Big Ten championship game if you're any of those 6 teams. And here's a few keys to Nebraska being great once again. The defense, once again, must improve. Their defense has not been good in many years. It's been a definite weak spot. We've seen some Nebraska teams with excellent offenses. I even remember in the past decade we've seen Nebraska have an excellent offense, but their defense is not usually very good. The offense needs to be consistent as well. Recruiting is something Frost is great at, and I think that's going to be a big key strength in the end. So I think recruiting's already improved a ton over the past couple of years. We've seen that. Scott Frost is doing a great job, it seems like. And also make the most of Adrian Martinez while you have him. You probably still have him for another couple of years if he does not go to the NFL. In that case, it'd be 3. But Adrian Martinez, though, being an excellent quarterback that he is, you gotta take advantage of him while you have him. Build some momentum off of him. And I think they'll be able to do that very well over the next couple of years. Use the home field advantages in 2019. Once again, I went over that a couple minutes ago. They've got most of their tough teams at home this season, so you cannot take any bad losses. There's no excuses in this circumstance. I think Nebraska, though, with those home games, they've got a pretty good shot at making a Big Ten championship next season. So is Nebraska going to be back in a few years? You let me know. What do you guys think of this team over the next few years? Maybe a really interesting one for sure. I went over a schedule preview back in, I believe, March. And I also did a final prediction a couple weeks ago on this team. Go check those videos out if you'd like to. Both of those I'll have tagged, so you can go check those out if you'd like to. And you can see more of my analysis on Nebraska in those as well. Once again, thank you guys all for watching. Season starts in just about a week. I'll be giving out my Week 0 rankings. This is going to be before Week 1 starts because we got a few games, I believe, on the 24th of August. And so I think I'm going to put out a rankings video just before that starts, and I'll probably do a revised version after the Week 0 games. So stay tuned for those. Subscribe if you'd like to. Show some support as well, and I'll see you all later.